Hello and welcome in. I am Greg Smith, recruiting extraordinaire for Hail Varsity, and we are back for another Thursday football video. I am joined once again by staff writer for Hail Varsity, Steve Marik. Steve, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. It's a great day. We got a big weekend coming up here in recruiting for the University of Nebraska. So I'm excited to get into this.
Yeah, there's a lot going on when it comes to kind of my world of recruiting right now, because boy, it is going to be the biggest weekend of the Scott Frost era when it comes to recruiting. And we'll have plenty more content on that. That is now what today's video is about. Be looking out and make sure you check out the Hail Varsity YouTube channel and hailvarsity.com for a comprehensive coverage of all that is going on with that. But today we have a fun football topic for everyone. Steve has been counting down kind of the most important newcomers to Nebraska's football roster, and he's smiling because we had some nice debate over that list and kind of what the order needed to be. So I'll be very curious when we end up getting to kind of that top group to see what happens. But we wanted to kind of discuss today, I guess, this central question: if you had to pick one player that was not named Casey Thompson and Ochaun Mathis, because we kind of feel like those would be the easy two picks. If it's not Ochaun, it's not Casey. Which player, if they're good and they live up to the transfer hype, makes the most impact on Nebraska's season in the 2022 class? Steve, I will let you go first. Who is your pick for that one guy not named Casey or Ochaun?
Yeah. I'm glad we did the non-Casey and non-Ochaun because those are just easy answers. Of course, they're going to have big impacts on this team right away because they're likely starters. But if I had to go outside of those two, my top pick would be one of the Alabama transfers and Stephon Wynn Jr. Just your prototypical zero technique defensive tackle. Nebraska really needed one of those guys. They needed a veteran, a old guy, a 300 plus pounder to just stick in the middle, take up blocks, eat up double teams, and let the two guys behind him and Luke Reimer and Nick Henrich just clear them up to free up space to let them do what they do, which is go see ball, hit ball. So I really think that Stephon Wynn now. I know. If you look at Stephon Wynn and his career at Alabama, he just didn't play much. He was a career backup. It's all right. We can say it. He was a career backup. But I think when you look at, somebody who has stuck inside of a program, a Nick Saban program for 4 years, he knows what a good program looks like. He was a good teammate and stuck around even when he wasn't playing. That doesn't happen that often. But now later in his career, when he has 2 years of eligibility left, I understand him wanting to get out and kind of get some film on himself so he can try to compete at the next level. But yeah, I just think that, getting a guy like Stephon Wynn, 6'4", 310 pounds around there, to plug into the middle of Nebraska's defense, that was a hole that was left with Damian Daniels, and now they got one. And I'm not saying he's going to be Damian Daniels, but I just think that, bringing in an old veteran guy like Stephon Wynn Jr., who is, been in a program led by Nick Saban, I think that's just positives all around. So we'll see how it actually ends up, and we'll see how much he's out there. But I think it's a good start to get him into Nebraska's program.
Yeah, I find that your line of thinking on this, I think it's really interesting because it is different than what I think that people sometimes say about getting a defensive lineman, and that you think your first thought is, okay, Nebraska picked up a defensive lineman. That guy's huge impact will be, tackles for loss or sacks or something like that. And I really like that you went towards keeping those linebackers clean. And I think that it's such an important thing. And I think this is going to come up when we get to fall camp and we start to talk to the coaches. We talk to Chenander and some of those guys. I think that's going to come up about the ability once they get Luke Reimer back in the lineup and healthy. How do they repeat the success that they had with those two inside backers that they had last year with Henrich and Reimer? And part of it will be the ability to keep them clean. Part of that will be how good Wynn can end up being as a piece in the middle of that defense. I think that's a really savvy pick. It is not the way that I'm going to go. So we did not end up having the same one. And I wonder, the funny thing is about my pick, is that I'm going with Timmy Bleekrode, the Furman transfer kicker. Okay. And you're laughing and I'm laughing
Oh, no,
because
it's a
in a
good pick.
way,
It's a really good pick. Yeah.
it's funny when the offseason started or when he kind of announced that he was coming to Nebraska, it was, oh, well, he's going to be the most important guy. And it was kind of a joke, like, haha, right? Like people were kind of joking about it. And then you see the spring game happen and you end up in a situation where you have another missed kick, right? And so you're like, well, and then in the post-game press conference, Scott Frost was asked, like, he can't wait probably to get Timmy Bleekrode on campus, and he kind of laughed and wanted to play it to the side because that's what Frost does. But at the same time, like that was serious. Like he really can't wait until he gets there because the amount of points that Nebraska has left on the field based on either kind of shoddy field goal kicking or extra points has really been staggering when you compare it to other schools. And we just kind of look at, especially their one score losses. And it's not just like we talk about it as those one score losses were just last year. It wasn't. Like this has been a thing that has kind of plagued the Frost era the entire time that he's been here. And so if Nebraska can get really solid kicking once again, I think it has the potential to really change the fortunes of the team because they did a nice job of moving the ball, kind of 20-20 or, 30-30. It was really being able to convert those points and to make sure that, hey, if they get down there kind of in that green zone that people talk about now, that they would be able to actually convert that to points. He's just not always going to, punch it in for 6. And so I think that could end up really having a huge impact and a trickle down effect if Bleekrode from Furman is the type of player that people hope that he can be. If he's an all conference type of player, the way that he was at his previous stop, I think it kind of changes this team.
Yeah, that's an excellent pick. And, the two specialists don't really come to mind right away when you're talking about the transfers, but man, they're going to be really important. Throw Brian Buschini in there at punter as well. But yeah, getting back to Bleekrode, just looking at some of his stats here, he was 5 for 5 from 20 to 29 yards. 4 for 4 from 30 to 39 yards. Wouldn't it be so nice as an offense to be able to, once you get to a certain area of the opponent's field, to be like, okay, we're going to get points now. It wasn't like that. The confidence in that wasn't like that last year. It just wasn't there. So I just think that, once having a proven field goal kicker that you're confident in, on your side, once you get to a certain point of the field, to be able to cross it and be like, okay, we have 3 points now. That's so huge, I think. And, it just, it's really important to be able to have something like that. And, Connor Culp, he faces adversity. He had a rough year last year. And then the year before that, he had the Big Ten kicker of the year. And Chase Contreras is coming back as well for the two field goal kickers from last year. But yeah, just to have a guy like Timmy Bleekrode, hopefully it's the Furman Bleekrode that comes to Lincoln. So yeah, a lot of kind of plans are being made with those two kickers, and hopefully they're showing what they did at their previous stops in Lincoln.
Yeah, and what to me about the Bleekrode thing too is that once you get inside that certain area where you feel like you're going to get 3 points at least out of that, what that does is that changes how you call your offense, right? Yeah. So now all of a sudden, instead of just saying, okay, well, you can take a little bit more chances to try to take shots towards the end zone. Because that, hey, if we get nothing, then we still are kind of in range for our kicker to be able to go out here and make something happen and pick up points for us. I think that's huge for Nebraska. And I think, honestly, my second pick might have been Brian Buschini. Might have ended up being
Brian Buschini was up there with me too. So
and it's funny because in most times you don't think about this, but I think the specialists are just such a key part of this for Nebraska this year. When you're talking about a team that has had such a small margin for error, and just when you talk about being able to pin a team back, because remember how we were talking about was before last year and before they got with Brendan Frankie out there doing the kickoffs.
Yeah.
Remember when they were saying, man, they just need somebody that can kick the dang thing through the end zone,
Yep.
and what a difference that would make. And it made a big difference for that return unit. So I think that ends up really helping the team. Like it's weird, and it's different from what you think you would normally be talking about. But man, I think those specialists are going to be a big deal.
Yeah, it was funny last year covering the games because I remember just keeping stats of Brandon Frankie and how often he kicked it through the end zone because it was such a problem the year before that. I mean, it was so yeah, just getting and nobody wants to talk about the kickoff specialists because it's kind of boring, but they're I mean they're a good one to have if you have a good one. So yeah, bringing Brandon Frankie on and thank goodness he's coming back again to the team to do his thing again because that's a major help.
Yeah, definitely is. And also what you notice about teams around the Big Ten, it feels like every team Nebraska plays has a kickoff specialist, a great field goal kicker, and a great punter. I mean, I'm sure that can't actually be true, but it really feels like every week Nebraska's facing that type of guy, especially remember last year where it felt like opposing kickers just weren't missing. Like it just feels like you went on that roll where that was happening. And you get the Ohio State guy out there just booming them from everywhere. And it was just a wild thing to see unfold. And so hopefully Nebraska has that part of it kind of nailed down. But I'm really curious to see what people pick for these things. Like make sure you guys respond in the comments and tell us who are your picks for this. Remember, outside of Casey Thompson and Ochaun Mathis. And if you have to pick one of those, you better give a real big reason why as to why you pick them, because those are the low-hanging fruit. And it makes us to where we can get to, Win and Bleak Road and guys like that. Because I think that those guys are going to have big impacts on the team as we move forward in kind of a critical 2022 season.
Yeah, absolutely. Just send us your picks, and again, not Casey Thompson and not Ochaun Mathis, because those are going to be two really important guys. We already know.
Yeah, absolutely. Now make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the video as well, and subscribe to Hail Varsity, or subscribe to the YouTube as well. Subscribe to hailvarsity.com too. You still got time to get in before the Hail Varsity yearbook deadline, so you make sure that you have that in your mailbox. June 6th is the cutoff for that, so you guys still have time to make sure if you're watching it before then. We will make sure we will have all sorts of coverage from a huge recruiting weekend, like I mentioned before, up on hailvarsity.com as well. We will catch you guys next week.